The afternoon sunlight shimmered gently over Copper Creek Middle School, where 13-year-old Emma Caldwell, in her neatly pressed school uniform, watched in frozen horror as her beloved Labrador, Shadow, collapsed on the sidewalk, blood spreading rapidly across his dark fur. Her small hands trembled, reaching desperately for the wound, eyes wide in disbelief and anguish. Behind her stood two police officers, Jensen and Brody, their guns still drawn, faces stricken with sudden panic. As Shadow whimpered softly, Emma's world shattered, unaware this tragedy would ignite a community's fight for justice, healing, and courage. Copper Creek lay nestled in the gentle embrace of Oregon's lush, rolling hills, where autumn had already begun weaving its magic, tinting trees with hints of crimson and gold. The air carried a crisp coolness, an invitation to don warmer jackets and sip hot cocoa. Here, life moved in quiet harmony. Families strolled leisurely along cobbled sidewalks lined with charming boutiques and cozy cafes. But beneath the tranquil surface of this idyllic town, past wounds lingered, quietly shaping the lives of those who called it home. Emma Caldwell stepped through the doors of Copper Creek Middle School, blinking against the late afternoon sun. At 13, she was slender and petite, standing barely 5 feet tall, her figure dwarfed by the large navy blazer and plaid skirt of her school uniform. Emma's auburn hair, falling softly around her shoulders, caught the sun's glow, creating a fiery halo around her gentle face. Her green eyes, usually bright and curious, today looked weary after a day of navigating 7th-grade classes and the persistent whispers of her classmates. Yet beneath her reserved demeanor lay an artistic soul. Emma could spend hours immersed in sketchbooks, bringing fantastical worlds to life, escaping into colors and forms, a world of her own design. She paused at the edge of the schoolyard, the soft jingle of Shadow's collar instantly brightening her tired expression. Shadow, her 3-year-old black Labrador retriever, bounded energetically toward her, his glossy ebony coat catching the sunlight. Shadow was a muscular dog, with soulful brown eyes that seemed to understand her every mood. His gentle, affectionate nature had always been a comfort to Emma, especially after her father's death. He had been the last gift from her father, Lucas Caldwell, who had been killed in Afghanistan 2 years earlier. Shadow was not merely a pet. He was a cherished link to her father, a quiet guardian who filled the silent spaces Lucas had left behind. Emma bent down, scratching Shadow gently behind his ears. "Missed you today," she whispered affectionately, smiling when Shadow responded with an enthusiastic tail wag. Her smile deepened, memories briefly flickering through her mind of her father, a tall man with kind blue eyes and a hearty laugh that always made her feel safe. Lucas had promised to return home safely, a promise fate cruelly denied. As she straightened, adjusting the strap of her school bag, Emma noticed the gathering clouds above, darkening rapidly, signaling an approaching rainstorm. She quickened her pace, Shadow dutifully trotting beside her. Their path home wound through quiet residential streets, lined with tidy lawns and picket fences, each street corner familiar and reassuring. Approaching Elmwood Avenue, the main street bustling with afternoon traffic and pedestrians, Emma suddenly felt Shadow tense at her side. Looking up, she saw 2 police officers approaching from across the street, their expressions grimly alert. Officer Mark Jensen, tall and broad-shouldered, had cropped blonde hair and piercing blue eyes that typically assessed everything with methodical precision. Known in town for his seriousness and rigidity, he carried himself with the authority of someone accustomed to control. His younger partner, Officer Kyle Brody, shorter and leaner, had dark hair combed neatly beneath his police cap and a perpetual look of nervous attentiveness etched upon his thin face. Brody often appeared eager to prove himself, quick to follow Jensen's lead without hesitation. As the officers drew nearer, Shadow, sensing Emma's unease, shifted protectively, his body rigidly poised. Jensen paused abruptly, eyes narrowing as he evaluated the large Labrador standing defensively beside the petite girl. Brody stiffened, instinctively placing a cautious hand on his holster. Hold your dog, Jensen commanded sharply, voice edged with authority. Emma's pulse quickened, her grip tightening reflexively on Shadow's leash. He's friendly, she said cautiously, keeping her voice steady. He doesn't bite. Jensen ignored her assurance, exchanging a wary glance with Brody, his eyes lingering mistrustfully on Shadow's powerful form. Shadow, sensing the escalating tension, emitted a low, uneasy whine, but remained at Emma's side, steadfastly loyal. Officer Brody's hand visibly trembled as it gripped the handle of his gun. That dog looks aggressive, he muttered anxiously, eyes darting from Shadow to Jensen and back. Emma shook her head desperately, fear swelling within her. He wouldn't hurt anyone, please, she pleaded earnestly, stepping protectively in front of Shadow. He's my friend. But Jensen's expression remained unyielding, skepticism clouding his judgment. Just keep him back, miss, Jensen insisted sternly, stepping forward abruptly. Shadow reacted instinctively, moving just slightly in front of Emma, his posture protective but not hostile. Startled by the dog's subtle movement, Brody panicked. Without thinking clearly, he swiftly drew his firearm, shouting in alarm, "He's attacking!" Emma's horrified protest barely escaped her lips before a sharp gunshot cracked through the afternoon silence, echoing harshly between buildings. Shadow staggered backward, collapsing heavily onto the sidewalk, a low, pained yelp breaking from his throat. Emma dropped to her knees beside him, horror and disbelief etched deeply onto her pale face. Blood seeped rapidly from the wound on Shadow's abdomen, staining the pavement crimson and darkening his sleek fur. "No, Shadow. Please no," Emma sobbed desperately, hands shaking as she futilely pressed against the wound, her fingers quickly slick with her beloved companion's blood. Officer Jensen stood frozen, momentarily shaken from his professional composure, uncertainty flickering across his face. Brody, gun still raised, stared at the scene in shock, face pale and horrified by his impulsive action. Nearby, pedestrians had gathered, some staring in shock, others hurriedly capturing the chaotic scene on their smartphones. A woman with short silver hair and concerned hazel eyes rushed forward, reaching for her phone. "Someone call an ambulance," she shouted urgently. "This dog needs immediate help." Emma barely registered the commotion around her. Her world narrowed down solely to the fading warmth beneath her palms, Shadow's shallow breaths growing weaker. Hot tears blurred her vision, a raw, choking grief rising sharply within her chest. You didn't have to shoot," Emma whispered brokenly, looking up at Brody with a mixture of despair and accusation. "He was just protecting me." Brody took a shaky step back, Jensen reaching out silently to steady his visibly shaken partner. We didn't know," Brody stammered weakly, voice trailing off as guilt seeped visibly across his features. Rain suddenly began to fall gently, cold drops mingling with Emma's tears as she cradled Shadow's head tenderly on her lap. She barely felt the chill, her focus entirely consumed by the wounded friend whose breathing now seemed painfully faint. Her sobs blended with the soft patter of raindrops. Lost in a heartache she feared she would never escape. In that agonizing moment, Emma Caldwell's world splintered anew, the old wounds from losing her father reopened violently. Shadow had been more than just a dog. He was family, her protector, her solace. Now he lay broken before her, wounded unjustly by those who were supposed to safeguard peace, leaving Emma questioning if the fractured pieces of her heart could ever heal again. Days following the tragic incident blurred together for Emma Caldwell, each filled with shadows and an unending sense of loss. The familiar autumn sunlight filtering through her bedroom window seemed dull, stripped of its warmth, unable to penetrate the numbness wrapping her like a heavy cloak. Emma's once vibrant green eyes, now red-rimmed and shadowed from nights of fitful sleep, stared blankly at the unfinished sketch on her desk, a drawing of Shadow playing in the sunlit park near Copper Creek Middle School. The pencil lines remained faint and incomplete, frozen in the innocence of a happier moment. The very sight of her sketchbook, once a treasured friend, now filled her with pain, reminders of the life she'd lost the day Shadow was shot. Emma had barely spoken since the incident, her trauma isolating her even from those closest to her. Each morning, she donned her uniform mechanically, her petite figure seeming even smaller under the heavy weight of grief. Teachers noted her silence with concern, but no one pressed her, as though fearful that too many questions might shatter her fragile composure. Homework assignments, previously completed with meticulous care, were now left untouched, gathering dust on her desk. The principal, Mr. Jonathan Reed, a tall, thin man with silver-rimmed glasses and a perpetual expression of gentle concern, had contacted her aunt, Hannah Caldwell, to discuss Emma's rapid academic decline. Hannah Caldwell, Emma's aunt and guardian since her brother Lucas's death, had always carried herself with strength and purpose. At 38, Hannah was tall and poised, her chestnut hair cut neatly at her shoulders, accentuating her intelligent hazel eyes. As a successful civil rights attorney, she possessed a quiet authority that commanded respect, tempered by a warmth and compassion that shone clearly whenever she spoke about her niece. Losing Lucas had been devastating for Hannah, yet she'd channeled that grief into advocacy, her passion for justice becoming more determined with each passing year. After receiving Mr. Reed's call, Hannah had felt an immediate surge of anxiety. Sitting now at her kitchen table, surrounded by scattered legal files and empty coffee mugs, she read through multiple local newspaper articles and online community posts, all referencing troubling interactions between the community and the Copper Creek Police Department. Hannah's heart sank deeper with each account she uncovered. It appeared Emma's tragedy was not isolated. There were whispers of other incidents involving officers Mark Jensen and Kyle Brody, each story characterized by accusations of excessive force, intimidation, or questionable conduct. Hannah knew she had to act swiftly. Emma was fragile, barely eating, silent even in her sleep. Yet Hannah's niece was not the only victim of this troubling pattern. To protect Emma, Hannah needed to confront the systemic issue lurking beneath Copper Creek's peaceful exterior. She decided to contact someone familiar with the town's past, someone who might help her uncover further evidence against Jensen and Brody. Carolyn Ross, a retired librarian and a well-known figure in Copper Creek. Carolyn was in her mid-60s, petite with short silver hair and piercing blue eyes that seemed perpetually sharp with observation. Known locally for her fierce advocacy of transparency and justice, she had faced her own tragedy years earlier. Her husband had suffered severe injuries following an unwarranted altercation with police, an incident conveniently hushed up by the department. Carolyn's experiences had transformed her, making her a quiet yet persistent advocate for accountability. When Hannah arrived at Carolyn's modest, cottage-style home, the older woman greeted her warmly, a knowing expression on her face as if she had anticipated Hannah's visit. Sitting in Carolyn's cozy living room, surrounded by shelves crowded with books and framed photographs chronicling a lifetime of memories, Hannah explained her situation, recounting Emma's trauma and outlining her suspicions regarding Jensen and Brody. Carolyn listened intently, nodding solemnly before rising slowly and retrieving a thick folder hidden carefully beneath a stack of old magazines. "I've been waiting years for someone willing to fight," Carolyn said firmly, her voice gentle yet resolute as she handed Hannah the folder. Inside were carefully collected notes, police reports, witness statements, and faded photographs documenting past incidents involving Jensen and Brody. "These officers have been shielded by silence, Hannah. But perhaps Emma's tragedy will finally bring their wrongdoings to light." Back home, Hannah studied Carolyn's documents deep into the night, the scope of the misconduct overwhelming. From intimidation tactics directed toward local teenagers to accusations of wrongful arrest dismissed by authorities without explanation, a grim portrait emerged of two officers who operated without consequence. Hannah's anger mingled with grief, fueling her determination. She knew this fight would be challenging, but Emma deserved justice, as did the other victims whose stories had long been buried beneath the tranquil facade of Copper Creek. At school, Emma navigated hallways in silent isolation. Her Her best friend, Abigail "Abby" Carter, had repeatedly attempted to reach out. Abby, a bright, outgoing girl with curly blonde hair and expressive brown eyes, had been Emma's closest friend since third grade, always loyal and supportive. Yet now, even Abby's gentle concern felt distant and alien to Emma's closed-off world. Abby's presence, once comforting, became another painful reminder of everything Emma had lost. In the quiet solitude of the school's art room, Emma attempted to draw once more. Art teacher Mrs. Rebecca Dawson, a compassionate woman in her early 40s, noted Emma's trembling hands and vacant expression. Mrs. Dawson was tall and slender, her soft, wavy red hair often pulled back in a loose ponytail, her nurturing personality beloved by her students. Gently approaching Emma's desk, she placed a comforting hand lightly on her shoulder. "You don't have to force yourself, Emma," Mrs. Dawson murmured softly, recognizing the silent torment evident in Emma's eyes. "Art comes when you're ready, not when you push yourself too hard." Emma stared blankly at the half-completed drawing of Shadow, memories of happier days flooding her mind. Her voice broke softly, raw with grief. "I don't know if I'll ever be ready." Meanwhile, Hannah had arranged an appointment with Copper Creek Police Chief William Harris, determined to press her findings directly. Chief Harris, a formidable figure nearing retirement, was tall and broad, with salt and pepper hair and a perpetually stern expression, reflecting his military background. Meeting Hannah in his modest office adorned with awards and commendations, he listened with cautious interest, frowning deeply as Hannah recounted Carolyn Ross's evidence. "Ms. Caldwell, these accusations are serious," Chief Harris admitted carefully, his deep voice measured yet revealing subtle concern. "But Jensen and Brody have solid reputations." Without substantial proof, the department's hands remained tied. Frustrated yet undeterred, Hannah understood the chief's reluctance. Institutional protection ran deep, but the stakes were personal now. This wasn't merely another case. It was Emma's future, her healing, at stake. Late that evening, Emma sat silently by her bedroom window, staring into the darkness. Hannah entered quietly, sitting gently beside her niece. After a long silence, Hannah spoke softly, her voice filled with quiet strength. "Emma, I promise we'll find justice for Shadow. You're not alone in this fight." Emma's eyes flickered briefly, revealing the faintest glimmer of hope, a fragile yet essential spark. Justice seemed distant, healing even farther, yet hearing her aunt's promise, Emma finally allowed herself to believe that perhaps, despite everything, they were not entirely alone. The first snowflakes gently drifted down onto the quiet streets of Copper Creek, transforming sidewalks and rooftops into a soft white tapestry. It was the kind of peaceful morning Emma used to love, one that reminded her of simpler times. But today, as she gazed through her bedroom window, the snowy landscape felt distant, almost surreal, as if she were viewing life from behind a veil of glass. Weeks had passed since Shadow had been wounded, and although his physical injuries were healing, the emotional scars they both carried seemed insurmountable. Shadow lay curled at the foot of Emma's bed, his dark fur shimmering gently in the dim morning light. The Labrador had lost weight, his once playful eyes now wary, constantly alert. Though he was recovering physically, his friendly demeanor had diminished significantly. Every unfamiliar sound or unexpected visitor sent him cowering anxiously behind Emma, trembling softly. Emma spent most of her free moments sitting quietly beside him, gently stroking his fur, her presence offering him comfort and security. The bond they shared, intensified by shared trauma, became their silent refuge. Across town, Hannah Caldwell stepped into the cozy but modest home of the Ramirez family, her breath visible in the crisp winter air. Maria Ramirez, a petite woman in her early 40s, greeted Hannah with cautious warmth. Maria's tired eyes, deep brown and shadowed by perpetual anxiety, revealed years of quiet struggle. She had curly black hair streaked with early silver, framing a gentle face etched deeply by worry. Maria spoke softly, her voice shaking slightly, Thank you for coming, Miss Caldwell. It's been hard for us. No one else has listened. Maria's son, Alejandro Ramirez, appeared quietly from the hallway, leaning slightly against the doorway. A senior at Copper Creek High, Alejandro was tall and slim, with short, wavy black hair and dark eyes carrying a haunted sadness. His gentle demeanor was tinged with a reserved shyness stemming from past encounters with officers Jensen and Brody. Hannah could see immediately how those experiences had left deep emotional marks on this sensitive young man. Alejandro recounted quietly, his voice trembling. The night officers Jensen and Brody had stopped him on his way home from basketball practice. They had accused him unjustly of vandalism, rough-handling him while ignoring his desperate protests of innocence. Though never officially charged, Alejandro's reputation was tarnished, leaving him isolated and wary, his dreams of college scholarships hanging precariously. Hannah took careful notes, feeling her anger rise as she recognized the familiar pattern of misconduct conveniently overlooked by local authorities. Leaving the Ramirez home, she proceeded to the apartment of another family affected, the O'Connors. Jacob O'Connor, a mechanic in his mid-40s, met Hannah at the door, his strong frame leaning heavily on a cane. Jacob's warm, welcoming face contrasted sharply with the painful limp he'd acquired months prior, the result of a questionable encounter with Jensen and Brody following a traffic stop that escalated without cause. His young daughter, Katie, a cheerful girl with strawberry blonde hair and sparkling blue eyes, sat quietly nearby, coloring pictures on their worn kitchen table. Katie's innocent presence seemed to underscore the deep injustice their family had endured. "Nothing ever came of our complaints," Jacob explained, bitterness coloring his usually calm voice. "The police brushed it off as an unfortunate accident. But I can't even play ball with my own daughter now." Hannah documented these testimonies diligently, the weight of each story adding urgency to her growing case. As she exited the O'Connors building, her mind spun with frustration at the complicity and silence shielding Jensen and Brody. She knew confronting such corruption would be difficult, but these hidden stories strengthened her resolve. Returning home, Hannah sorted through the extensive notes, photographs, and police reports she'd gathered. A disturbing pattern emerged clearly. Jensen and Brody frequently targeted vulnerable or minority families, their misconduct consistently downplayed or ignored by local authorities. It was as if Copper Creek itself had decided certain truths were best left unspoken, buried beneath layers of comfortable silence. At home, Emma had begun therapy sessions with Dr. Laura Bennett, a compassionate psychologist recommended by Hannah. Dr. Bennett was in her mid-30s, petite with straight, chestnut hair framing a reassuring smile. Her calm voice and patient demeanor gradually encouraged Emma to open up, gently guiding her through painful memories and fears. Today's session took place in the softly lit comfort of Dr. Bennett's office. Emma sat nervously, Shadow lying anxiously at her feet, head occasionally rising to assess any sudden movement. "Tell me about your drawings, Emma," Dr. Bennett encouraged softly, eyes warm with understanding. "You haven't touched your sketchbook in weeks." Emma's gaze drifted to Shadow, her voice barely audible. "Every time I try to draw, just remember." Her eyes brimmed with tears. "Shadow used to love it when I sketched outside. Now, he barely leaves the room." Dr. Bennett listened attentively, gently offering, "Healing takes time. Perhaps starting with something new, something unrelated, might help you both reconnect with the comfort you once found in art." That evening, with Shadow cautiously by her side, Emma picked up a fresh sketchbook, its blank pages daunting yet inviting. She began sketching a winter landscape, carefully avoiding anything too familiar or painful. As pencil lines slowly emerged, Shadow watched intently, his quiet presence providing her comfort. It was a small step, but one filled with tentative hope. Meanwhile, Hannah visited Copper Creek's local news editor, Benjamin Foster. In his late 50s, Benjamin was lean and sharply observant, his thinning gray hair contrasting sharply against his keen, youthful eyes. A seasoned journalist known for his commitment to uncovering truth, Benjamin had previously reported on Jensen and Brody, but faced severe backlash from influential community figures. "I've waited years for someone brave enough to bring forward solid proof," Benjamin admitted, glancing over Hannah's documents. "If you're ready, Miss Caldwell, this could finally break the silence." "I have no choice," Hannah replied resolutely. "Emma needs to know justice is possible, that her voice and those of others matter." Late that night, snow continued gently blanketing Copper Creek, muffling sound and softening sharp edges. Emma curled protectively around Shadow, who lay breathing softly, still wary but comforted by her proximity. Hannah watched quietly from the doorway, her heart aching yet determined. Copper Creek might wish to hide its shadows beneath layers of silence and denial, but Hannah knew the truth, once awakened, could never fully return to sleep. She had begun stirring the town's dormant memories. Voices long silenced were ready to rise again, demanding accountability. Emma, slowly reclaiming fragments of her passion, and Shadow, scarred yet resilient, embodied the quiet strength needed to finally confront and illuminate those hidden injustices. Winter deepened over Copper Creek, leaving the town shrouded in icy silence. Snow piled along sidewalks and rooftops, muffling the daily rhythms and creating an illusion of peace. For Hannah Caldwell, however, tranquility felt impossibly distant. Her persistence in exposing the misconduct of Officers Jensen and Brody had turned her into a reluctant target, and she now faced growing pressure from local officials to abandon her pursuit of justice. Early one frigid morning, Hannah received a call from Mayor Kenneth Dalton's office, summoning her urgently. Mayor Dalton was a heavy-set man in his late 50s, with thinning blonde hair combed meticulously over his broad forehead. His ruddy face usually displayed affability to voters, but behind closed doors, Hannah knew him as calculated and pragmatic, willing to protect Copper Creek's polished image at nearly any cost. In his oak-paneled office, Mayor Dalton sat rigidly behind his massive desk, hands clasped tightly. "Ms. Caldwell," he began smoothly, his voice polished and controlled. "This crusade you've undertaken, do you fully grasp its implications? Copper Creek thrives on community trust. Your actions risk damaging years of goodwill." Hannah, seated calmly, met his gaze evenly. "Mayor Dalton, my only aim is justice. Officers Jensen and Brody have repeatedly abused their power. Families are suffering, children traumatized, including my niece." Dalton leaned forward slightly, his expression hardening subtly. "These are heavy accusations. I strongly advise caution. Public sentiment can be unpredictable. Consider carefully whether this battle is truly worth fighting." Hannah recognized the implicit threat beneath his carefully chosen words. Leaving his office, a chill colder than the winter air settled within her. Yet her resolve only strengthened. No amount of intimidation would deter her now. At Copper Creek Middle School, Emma's days had grown increasingly isolating. The hallway whispers that followed her seemed sharper, each furtive glance a piercing reminder of Shadow's tragedy. A rumor had emerged, whispered from student to student, painting Shadow as aggressive, labeling Emma as unstable. Emma felt each sting acutely, withdrawing further into silence. Abby Carter, her childhood friend, had gradually distanced herself, uncomfortable with the relentless gossip. Emma found herself utterly alone, until one morning, in art class, she discovered unexpected allies. Tyler Bennett, a quiet boy in Emma's grade, approached hesitantly. Tyler was tall for his age, with unruly brown hair that often obscured his earnest blue eyes. Though shy and often overlooked by classmates, Tyler had always shown a quiet kindness towards others. Beside him stood Amanda Price, shorter and energetic, her curly dark hair framing expressive brown eyes. Amanda was cheerful, outspoken, and fiercely loyal, qualities Emma had admired from afar, though they'd rarely interacted. "Emma," Tyler began gently, awkwardly adjusting his glasses, "we know people have been saying awful things, but we believe you. We know Shadow wouldn't hurt anyone. Amanda nodded vigorously, placing a comforting hand on Emma's shoulder. "We want to help. You shouldn't face this alone." Emma stared at them in disbelief, her eyes welling with tears of relief. The sincerity in their expressions shattered the wall she'd built around herself. For the first time in weeks, she felt genuine warmth breaking through her isolation. Meanwhile, Hannah's situation intensified when Copper Creek Police Chief William Harris unexpectedly requested another meeting. Harris appeared strained when Hannah entered his modest office, his normally composed demeanor showing cracks of worry. "Ms. Caldwell," Harris spoke gravely, "I respect your determination, but the mayor's office insists I inform you officially. If your allegations continue without undeniable proof, you could face legal repercussions." Hannah sighed heavily, frustration evident. "Chief Harris, you've seen the evidence. Families are suffering. Why protect two corrupt officers?" Harris hesitated, visibly conflicted. "The reality is complicated. Powerful interests back Jensen and Brody. You must tread carefully. For Emma's sake." Hannah understood the chief's precarious position, yet his words underscored the harsh reality. Copper Creek's authorities prioritized image over justice. She would have to escalate her efforts, risking everything to ensure the truth surfaced. At school, Tyler and Amanda became Emma's constant companions, a united front against isolation. Lunchtime conversations gradually helped Emma rediscover laughter, their unwavering friendship restoring fragments of her shattered confidence. Tyler's gentle patience and Amanda's fierce encouragement gradually coaxed Emma into opening up about Shadow and the injustice she'd experienced. One afternoon, Amanda encouraged Emma to resume drawing. Sitting together in the nearly empty art room, Emma's hand trembled slightly as she began sketching Shadow from memory. She drew slowly, the pencil lines forming familiar curves and contours, capturing Shadow's strength and gentleness. As the sketch took shape, Emma felt tears blur her vision. Amanda placed a comforting arm around her shoulders. "It's beautiful, Emma," she whispered encouragingly. "Keep drawing. Let people see who Shadow truly is." Emma nodded softly, resolve building inside her. Perhaps her drawings could communicate truths words alone couldn't. Hannah's battle continued, and late one evening, a visitor unexpectedly arrived at her doorstep, Deputy Mayor Sandra Bell. Sandra was tall, poised, and sophisticated, her carefully styled auburn hair accentuating striking features. Though affiliated with Dalton's administration, Sandra had a reputation for integrity and compassion, quietly distancing herself from the mayor's controversial decisions. "I can't stay long," Sandra began cautiously once inside, glancing around nervously. "But I need you to know, you're not alone. Jensen and Brody have powerful friends, but you have allies too, even if they remain silent. People are watching, waiting for someone brave enough to challenge them openly." Hannah regarded Sandra carefully. "Why tell me this now?" Sandra's eyes softened, genuine empathy evident. "My younger brother was also victimized by Jensen and Brody years ago, but he never spoke up. Your courage has inspired him to finally share his story. There are others. The silent truths buried beneath Copper Creek are beginning to surface." Sandra departed swiftly, leaving Hannah stunned but encouraged. Her fight was no longer solitary. Others were awakening to the harsh realities hidden within their town. At school, bolstered by Tyler and Amanda's support, Emma approached Principal Jonathan Reed with an unusual request. Principal Reed listened compassionately as Emma proposed an art exhibition featuring drawings of Shadow and testimonies of families affected by police misconduct. Reed, moved by her quiet determination, approved enthusiastically, promising the school's support. As Emma exited his office, her heart pounded with nerves and cautious excitement. This art exhibition would become her voice, a chance to reclaim Shadow's story and challenge the lies isolating her. That night, sitting quietly with Shadow curled protectively at her side, Emma continued her drawings. Outside, snow gently blanketed Copper Creek in calm beauty, but Emma knew beneath the peaceful exterior lay painful truths demanding recognition. Emma and Hannah, though facing different battles, stood united, both determined to break Copper Creek's oppressive silence, revealing injustices long hidden. With newfound allies quietly rallying around them, the strength Emma believed lost forever gradually returned, empowering her to rise, hopeful that justice for Shadow, and for countless others, could finally be achieved. Preparations for the art exhibition transformed the halls of Copper Creek Middle School as student volunteers hung fairy lights and arranged rows of folding chairs neatly within the spacious gymnasium. Emma Caldwell stood nervously at the entrance, her heart fluttering anxiously. Winter sunlight filtered through frosted windows, casting gentle reflections on freshly polished floors, yet Emma felt an icy knot of anticipation deep within her chest. The center of attention were Emma's own drawings, carefully framed and arranged on easels beneath gentle spotlights. Each sketch represented a journey through love, loss, and resilience, each stroke capturing memories once too painful to revisit. But one drawing, prominently displayed at the exhibition's focal point, captured visitors' immediate attention. A strikingly emotional portrait of Shadow on that fateful day. In it, his gentle eyes radiated innocence and confusion, his body tense protectively, as if instinctively shielding Emma. Every detail captured both the injustice inflicted and the bond they shared, drawing viewers instantly into the depth of Emma's pain. Hannah Caldwell stood quietly beside her niece, dressed simply yet elegantly in a dark blazer, her hazel eyes scanning the growing crowd with cautious optimism. Though outwardly composed, Hannah's nerves fluttered beneath her calm exterior. The exhibition wasn't merely about sharing art. It was a public declaration of truth, a courageous act against Copper Creek's oppressive silence. Slowly, visitors filled the space. Parents, teachers, local shop owners, and students murmured quietly, their eyes drawn inevitably toward Emma's poignant sketches. Among them was Olivia Hartman, a respected retired schoolteacher whose petite stature and short, silver hair belied her formidable spirit. Olivia had long championed children's rights, her sharp blue eyes never missing injustice. As she studied Emma's drawings, she recognized the profound message woven within them. "I admire your courage, Emma," Olivia murmured gently as she approached, her voice warm and sincere. "Your art speaks more powerfully than words alone." Nearby, Benjamin Foster, the town's dedicated journalist, discreetly interviewed attendees. His notepad filled rapidly as family after family shared hushed stories of troubling encounters with Officers Jensen and Brody, incidents previously unreported or conveniently ignored. The exhibition had provided a safe space for suppressed truths to finally emerge. Amid the growing crowd stood Deputy Mayor Sandra Bell, whose dignified presence lent quiet validation to Emma and Hannah's cause. Sandra carefully examined each piece, her composed demeanor occasionally betraying brief moments of sadness or quiet anger. Beside her stood Marcus Allen, a respected local attorney in his early 50s, tall and dignified, with carefully groomed dark hair and intense brown eyes. Marcus had privately pledged his legal expertise, determined to support Hannah in her mounting battle against systemic corruption. At the far end of the exhibition, Emma's new friends, Tyler Bennett and Amanda Price, welcomed attendees warmly, distributing pamphlets that summarized the family's testimonies and Emma's personal story. Tyler's natural shyness had gradually given way to gentle confidence, his soft voice calmly explaining their cause. Amanda's boundless enthusiasm and compassion resonated clearly, her voice firm yet compassionate. Despite the reassuring presence of friends and allies, Emma found herself continually glancing toward Shadow, who lay quietly at the corner of the gymnasium beside her. Though physically recovered, the Labrador remained tense, his wary eyes following every visitor. Emma knelt frequently beside him, whispering soft reassurances. She knew this exhibition, though painful, was also Shadow's voice, a chance to correct the painful injustice that still haunted them both. As the event unfolded, Tension unexpectedly rippled through the room. Mayor Kenneth Dalton arrived, flanked closely by Chief Harris. Dalton's composed expression barely masked evident displeasure. His arrival drew immediate whispers, eyes flickering nervously as the mayor approached Hannah directly. "Ms. Caldwell," Dalton greeted coldly, his voice low enough to remain private, yet edged with clear warning. "I'm disappointed you chose public spectacle over private discourse." Hannah met his gaze unwaveringly. "Sometimes a public platform becomes necessary, Mayor. Too many voices have been silenced by fear. Today we break that silence." Dalton's eyes narrowed briefly. "Consider carefully your next steps. Public sentiment can shift quickly." Hannah's reply was quiet yet resolute. "The truth isn't afraid of shifting sentiments. Neither am I." Wordlessly, Dalton withdrew, Chief Harris exchanging an apologetic glance with Hannah before departing. Hannah knew this event had irrevocably altered Copper Creek's careful balance of power, compelling hidden truths into undeniable public view. As the afternoon progressed, more residents stepped forward, emboldened by the supportive atmosphere. Among them was Victor Simmons, a quiet, elderly gentleman known locally as a retired veteran who volunteered frequently at the town's food bank. Victor, tall and lean, with neatly combed white hair and calm green eyes, approached Emma slowly, his gentle voice tinged with emotion. "Your father, Lucas, he would have been immensely proud of you, Emma," Victor said softly. "I serve alongside him overseas. He always spoke of your courage and compassion. Today, you prove him right." Emma's eyes filled instantly with tears, gratitude and pride swelling inside her. Victor's words offered unexpected validation, strengthening her resolve further. By evening, the exhibition had far surpassed Hannah and Emma's expectations. Benjamin Foster's interviews had gathered substantial evidence. Multiple families were ready to publicly testify. Deputy Mayor Bell promised to support Marcus Allen's legal efforts openly, emboldened by the undeniable community momentum. Standing quietly near Shadow, Emma felt an unfamiliar yet comforting strength spreading warmly through her chest. Tyler and Amanda joined her quietly, their supportive presence offering reassurance. Emma realized she was no longer alone. Her voice, amplified through courage and community support, had finally resonated clearly, demanding acknowledgement. Hannah, observing her niece thoughtfully from a distance, felt pride swelling warmly inside her. This exhibition had sparked something vital within Copper Creek, a willingness to confront uncomfortable truths openly, rather than quietly ignoring them. Although Mayor Dalton and others remained formidable adversaries, today marked a decisive turning point. The quiet, brave voices previously silenced had finally found unity and strength. As visitors dispersed slowly, Emma remained near her central drawing, gently stroking Shadow's fur, now reassured and calm. She gazed thoughtfully at her artwork, the emotions it evoked still raw yet vital. Shadow leaned quietly into her touch, their mutual support reaffirmed through today's difficult yet empowering events. Outside, fresh snow began softly blanketing Copper Creek's streets once more, its purity contrasting poignantly against the darker truths now irrevocably revealed. Emma understood this journey wasn't finished. Challenging days lay ahead. Yet today had proven the power of courage, truth, and collective voice, a force capable of breaking even the most oppressive silences. With Shadow quietly beside her, Emma stood stronger, hopeful that justice, once uncertain, was now undeniably within reach. Spring had begun to gently reclaim Copper Creek from winter's grasp, sunlight softly filtering through budding trees and coaxing new blossoms from the thawing ground. Change was palpable in the air, not merely seasonal, but within the community itself. The exhibition at Copper Creek Middle School had sparked an irreversible shift, awakening the town's conscience. Voices previously muted by fear or resignation now united, demanding transparency and justice. Emma Caldwell had become an unlikely catalyst for this transformation, her quiet courage setting an example others now eagerly followed. Emma felt a growing sense of hope as she watched Shadow playfully chase butterflies through the schoolyard during recess. Fully recovered, Shadow's sleek black coat shone vibrantly in the sunlight, his expressive eyes bright and trusting again. No longer fearful or anxious, the Labrador Retriever had regained his joyful, playful nature, once again becoming Emma's constant and carefree companion. Beside Emma stood Tyler Bennett and Amanda Price, their friendship having blossomed into a tight-knit bond of mutual support. Tyler's quiet kindness had strengthened into confident compassion, his once hesitant posture now relaxed and self-assured. Amanda's ever-cheerful demeanor continued to uplift them both, her enthusiasm spreading easily to those around her. Together, the trio had become inseparable, sharing laughter, stories, and dreams beneath Copper Creek's gently swaying trees. The significant shift in the community became apparent as Jensen and Brody finally faced accountability. Weeks after the art exhibition, investigative articles written by Benjamin Foster had appeared in Copper Creek's local newspaper, swiftly drawing attention from state-level authorities. The depth of misconduct exposed was undeniable. Families who had previously remained silent stepped forward courageously, providing critical testimonies against the officers. On an early morning, as mist slowly lifted from Copper Creek streets, Officers Jensen and Brody were formally charged. The scene outside the courthouse attracted crowd from across town, parents, educators, community leaders, and families who had waited long for justice. Jensen appeared defiant yet visibly shaken, while Brody's usual confidence seemed entirely diminished, replaced by quiet resignation. Emma Caldwell stood resolutely among supporters, her careful documentation and relentless advocacy finally yielding results. Beside her was Marcus Allen, the steadfast attorney whose calm guidance had proven invaluable during the lengthy legal battle. Chief William Harris stepped forward solemnly to address the gathered press. "Today marks an essential turning point for Copper Creek," Harris announced, his usually composed demeanor tinged with solemn sincerity. "Mistakes and injustices can no longer be concealed. Transparency and accountability must guide us forward. Our town must learn and grow from these troubling events." Deputy Mayor Sanderbell, standing alongside Harris, affirmed firmly, "We commit fully to this transparency, ensuring Copper Creek never repeats past errors. Healing begins only with honesty." Watching quietly among the crowd was Olivia Hartman, the retired teacher whose unwavering belief in justice had quietly strengthened community resolve. Her eyes, filled with quiet pride, met Hannah's warmly, both women silently acknowledging the power of persistence and courage. At Copper Creek Middle School, Principal Jonathan Reed announced new educational initiatives promoting awareness and open discussion about justice, community engagement, and responsibility. Students eagerly embraced these programs, excitedly contributing their voices and ideas. Teachers reported a noticeable shift in classroom dynamics, empathy, supportiveness, and genuine care becoming hallmarks of daily interactions. Emma's classmates, previously distanced by misunderstandings, gradually reconciled, embracing the values her quiet courage had exemplified. Emma's artwork flourished, renewed inspiration evident in every sketch. Her drawings now focused not on pain or injustice, but on hope, renewal, and the quiet beauty of everyday moments. Art teacher Rebecca Dawson encouraged Emma wholeheartedly, proudly displaying her students' latest pieces throughout school hallways, inspiring further conversations about empathy and community. Emma found particular strength from her therapy sessions with Dr. Laura Bennett, whose gentle guidance had helped her rediscover emotional balance and confidence. Dr. Bennett's nurturing approach allowed Emma to heal gradually, understanding courage stemmed from compassion, not anger or vengeance. The newfound harmony in Copper Creek extended quietly into Hannah and Emma's household. One peaceful evening, as soft spring rain pattered gently against their windows, Hannah and Emma sat comfortably together in the living room, Shadow nestled contentedly between them. Hannah glanced affectionately toward Emma, pride evident in her voice. You've helped this town rediscover its heart, Emma. Your courage made that possible. Emma's thoughtful green eyes considered this quietly, finally understanding the depth of her aunt's words. At first, I just wanted justice for Shadow, Emma confessed softly. But now I realize the strongest courage comes from love. Anger can't truly heal anything. Hannah smiled gently, her hazel eyes shining warmly. Exactly, sweetheart. Love, compassion, and empathy. Those are the strengths that mend broken places. Never forget that. In the weeks that followed, Copper Creek visibly transformed. Community meetings became frequent, openly discussing issues previously ignored. Mayor Kenneth Dalton, under immense public scrutiny, resigned quietly, replaced temporarily by Sandra Bell, whose sincere commitment to community healing inspired trust and optimism. The Ramirez family, Jacob O'Connor, and countless others who had previously suffered quietly, found comfort and validation through community support, their voices now valued and recognized openly. Alejandro Ramirez, buoyed by renewed support, reclaimed his confidence and ambition, securing a college scholarship despite prior challenges. Jacob O'Connor, encouraged by friends and neighbors, began volunteering at the community center, using his experience to mentor younger residents. Emma's artwork began attracting attention beyond Copper Creek. Small galleries across Oregon displaying her poignant sketches, praised widely for emotional depth and powerful storytelling. Invitations soon arrived for her participation in regional art workshops. Yet Emma remained humble, grateful primarily for the opportunity to inspire meaningful conversations. One warm evening, beneath a sky painted softly with pastel hues, Copper Creek hosted a community celebration. Friends and neighbors gathered happily, sharing stories, laughter, and newfound understanding. Emma, Tyler, and Amanda wandered contentedly, Shadow trotting faithfully beside them. Near the gathering's center, Hannah and Marcus Allen spoke quietly together, their partnership solidifying into mutual admiration and gentle affection. Victor Simmons stood chatting comfortably with Olivia Hartman, their shared experiences bridging generations through common purpose and hopefulness. Benjamin Foster mingled easily, recording stories now filled with optimism rather than caution or fear. Standing amidst it all, Emma paused thoughtfully, her gentle hand resting lightly on Shadow's fur. Watching the joyful gathering around her, she understood Copper Creek's true strength lay not in perfection, but in honesty, empathy, and community. Her own journey had taught her resilience born from pain and compassion more potent than vengeance. Emma glanced affectionately toward Hannah, who returned her gaze warmly, understanding perfectly the silent gratitude and hopefulness they now shared. Copper Creek's transformation had not been easy, yet together they had reclaimed its heart. As twilight deepened gently over Copper Creek, Emma felt peace settling softly within her. Courage had illuminated hidden truths, uniting the town and healing old wounds. With Shadow happy and safe at her side, Emma knew clearly now, true courage shone brightest through love, kindness, and quiet strength. Copper Creek had finally returned to the light. The story of Emma and Shadow teaches us a powerful, yet gentle lesson we can all carry into our daily lives. True courage isn't about revenge or anger. It's about compassion, empathy, and standing up for what's right, even when it's difficult. Just like Emma discovered, each one of us has the strength within to heal not only our own wounds, but those of our community too. Let's strive to be voices of kindness, helping those around us feel seen, heard, and loved. If this story touched your heart or inspired you in some way, please like this video, leave a comment below, and share your thoughts. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more heartfelt stories that bring warmth and hope into your everyday life. May God bless each of you watching today and fill your hearts with courage, peace, and endless love. If you agree and believe in the power of compassion and healing, please comment amen below.